Hey, I'm Mark Hunter, the Sales Hunter, and with me today is Meridith Elliott Powell. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, Meridith.
Yeah, it depends on what time zone you're in and what area of the world you're in, correct, Mark?
We'll just say happy selling. Okay, here's the question. You're on the phone. You got this prospect. They're ready to buy from you. You give them the price, and they suddenly go, your price is really high. You're going to have to cut your price. How do you respond?
Is that not one of the most painful things that can happen to you in sales? Well, let's talk about how I handle that. Number one is I definitely try to delay the conversation about price as long as I can delay it. And the reasons are because the more that I can understand the need, the more that I can really build relationship, and the more that I can position the price by adding value, the easier the conversation is about price. So I think number one is you want to make sure that when they're asking you about price, that you have done your due diligence to be able to position the price so that it has the value. And I'm just going to add to that real quick. I mean, because sometimes we've all been in that situation, right, Mark, where the customer jumps to price. They're just one of those personalities that they want to know what you sell and how much it costs. If you can ask questions and do some things to try to delay that, you're going to be in a better position. But what about you, Mark? What do you do?
Well, you bring up two interesting points there. That person who just calls you up and asks you for the price. You know what? They're a price-oriented buyer, and chances are there's zero way that you'll ever be able to sell to them. And if you do sell them, as soon as somebody comes along with a lower price, you've lost them. The strategy that I love to use, and I like your approach, you got to delay price as long as possible, because the key thing is you got to understand what is the critical need, what's the critical outcome that customer is going to receive from buying from you. And I'll never forget, I had a customer on the phone and he was ready to buy from me. And in fact, he purposely called me up to tell me that my price was too high and I needed to cut my price. And he started the conversation off by saying, your price is really high. You need to cut your price. And I immediately asked him a question on his most critical need. Because again, in our previous conversations, he had told me what his critical needs were. And it was funny. He started answering. He says, that was really good. I asked you to cut your price and you got me talking about my critical need. And I came back and I said, well, that really is the reason you're buying. You don't really want to buy just to buy, but you have a problem. And so how big of an issue is this? And he said, you're right. And he bought it at full price. When we deliver the value that's going to help the customer achieve the outcome, it's amazing. But what that means is we can't be quick to throw that price out. Yeah.
Yeah. I think we can't be quick. I think the other thing we can't be is awkward about it. I mean, I think a really important thing with price is that you've got to believe in your price. And so when you're ready, I mean, if somebody asks me about price, I've really started to notice that if I'm nervous about it or if I'm the slightest bit awkward, it's because I don't feel that I have positioned it yet. I haven't really positioned what the customer is paying for. And if you don't understand what they're paying for, if you haven't gotten that out there, and if they don't understand what they're paying for, price is always going to be an issue. So you've got to be ready to land it with the confidence and the energy that that is what they should be paying.
Wow, you just hit on something else. Because if you can't communicate your price with confidence, you're toast. I had a major buyer tell me, he says, whenever a vendor comes into my office and presents me with a price, I know that if they don't say it with a solid voice, eye contact, and good body language, I know there's a major discount to be had.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. So, you really have to, you've got to be able to believe it, and you've got to spend that conversation. Now, Mark, one of the lines that I often use when somebody's really pushing me on price, and I don't feel like I have done my due diligence yet, and they'll say, what is your price? And I'll say, I need to understand what it is that, exactly what it is that you need, because I'm not sure I'm the right vendor for you. And if you'll just let me ask a few more questions, I'll be able to answer. And just that seems to take them down a notch, because all of a sudden they're like, wow, all of a sudden it puts me from a position of need into a position of power. And that's where you want to be when you're talking about price, because you sure don't want to smell desperate, right?
Oh, what a great strategy. We should end it right there. So, okay, Meredith, how do people get in touch with you?
They get in touch with me by visiting my website, which is valuespeaker.com. And certainly they can get me on all the social media sites. I tend to live on LinkedIn. And Mark, how do people find you?
Well, it's thesaleshunter.com. And of course, the book I got right now is Hype. Hey, you got a new book. I got a new book coming out. Well, we'll talk about those on a future episode. But in the meantime, great selling.